Hiya and welcome to Independent Communicators Tips and Tricks. So today we are going to be talking about producing the sound k and g. So we often call this fronting when children can't say the k and the g, because often they're produced as a t or a d. So the sounds k and g are made at the back of our mouths, but often they're produced as front sounds such as t and d. So the tongue is at the front rather than when it should be at the back. So I'll show you with our dinosaur. Our tongue should be at the front behind our front teeth for a t, 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 or a d, d, d. And then the back of this tongue should be raised for a k or a g. So it comes from right from the back. So a k or a g. Those sounds are made at the back. So, and it's a really common speech error. Lots of children have it. It can sound a bit like cat, can sound like tat, dog can sound like gog, things like that. So the t and the k get mixed up and the g and the d get mixed up. So in this video, we're going to talk through how to make the k and g sound, a bit about them, and yeah, the stages of what we can get practicing to get those sounds from your children. So first of all, k and g are very similar. The only difference is that one is quiet and one is loud. So we call it voiceless and voiced. So the k, your voice box doesn't vibrate, so we call that the quiet sound or the voiceless k. And then the g is noisy. So if you feel your throat, you can feel your voice box vibrate, g. Okay, so I like to start with k first whenever I'm working, because often if they can't say k, it's likely that they can't say g. Doesn't always happen, but it's very common. So when I first kind of see a child who is fronting and we want to start working on k, at the beginning, I don't even start saying the sound at first. So I start with kind of listening to different sounds. So what I use is something called minimal pairs. So we have two pictures, tap and cap. The only difference in these two pairs is they rhyme. The only difference is the k and the t sound. So what I will do is I'll show the children, I'll model it, I'll say tap, tap, and then I'll say cap, cap, and talk about cap being the back sound and tap being the front sound. I'll then get a whole pile of them, and without the children seeing, I'll cover it and I'll say what I can see. So I'll say cap. And then the child will have that on the table and will point to the one that they hear. So this is called discrimination, to see if they can hear the difference between the sounds, if they can hear the difference between the back k in cap or the front t in tap. Okay, so they can be able to discriminate, then that's great. You can move on to the next stage. If not, it'd be lots of listening, doing minimal pair games like that, and you can do it with snap until you see the same one and hear them. Lots of listening to rhymes, lots of different things that can work on discrimination. And then the next thing we go to is saying the sound in isolation, so on its own. So I use Nuffield pictures, but you can use Jollyphonics or any kind of pictures that represent sounds. Often schools use different ones as well, maybe some Jollyphonics, or if a speech and language therapist, they might use Nuffield or Jollyphonics. So the camera, for me, for Nuffield, represents the k sound, the back k. And I will show this and I will model it and talk about how this is the k sound and get them to associate that with the sound, okay? And to get the sound, often when a child who can't say k, if you ask them to say it, they'll go t, t, t. So it's always talking about, oh, I heard that from the front of your mouth if they say it. We need to hear it right at the back and really talk about where that sound is coming from. So if it's at the front or if it's at the back. And then there's a few tricks to get the k sound. So one I like to do is ask the child to make their best angry cat sound. And so often they'll go k. So making that sound at the back, and because it's not associated with the sound, they can often make it. So I get them to make the angry cat sound, and I rename that sound the angry cat sound, because they don't have everything built up with the meaning around this sound. Another tip is to either get their finger or parents' fingers or a lollipop stick and hold the tip of the tongue down, forcing the back of the tongue up. So often children themselves just do it and go t, t. So it's either parent or kind of a lollipop stick if you're not the parent, encouraging the back of the tongue to go up. And another one is head back or even lying on the floor, because gravity helps pull that tongue back and lift that up instead of the front of the tongue going. Okay, so that's how we make the k sound. While we're here, I'll show you the g sound. So the geese in Nuffield is our g sound, so our noisy back sound, g. And again, not an angry cat sound, but I like to pretend that I'm gargling, so I go or make a cough, just so the child can feel something at the throat, the back of the mouth, to feel that it's at the back and it's not at the front. And again, using any kind of toy, saying it's at the back, up, g, 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 okay? So anything to make it visual for them to really help, instead of, because you can't see the g sound because it's right at the back. So, and again, tilting head back or lying on the floor is really good to help gravity make that g sound. So for this video, I'm going to use the k sound and work up in the stages, but you would do exactly the same to do g, but you would just use g and g words. Okay, so it all become obvious. So once the child can make that sound in isolation, they can go k, k, k. That's brilliant. And you want to do it a few times. You really want to get the consistency there before you move on to the next step. So the next step is joining this consonant with a vowel. Okay, so Nuffield pictures again. So I have my crocodile or alligator, and this one represents the R sound, okay? So I will blend them and I'll say R, k, and I'll leave a gap. I'll say R, k, and get the child to copy after me, and I'll gradually move them close and go R, k, reducing that little gap between the vowel and the consonant. So R, k, ark, 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 to really blend it, and I'll say ark, and then I'll do it this way round. So k, ah, k, ah, k, ah, ka, to blend it. And often blending is the trickiest bit, so they might go ta as soon as you kind of go to that. Again, it's bringing it back out, k, ah, ka, and really kind of emphasizing that and just supporting them with that and encouraging them. And if they keep on making errors, it's time to leave it and to come back to it, because we don't want them getting frustrated or kind of to relearn errors. So that's how we blend with our vowels, and you can do it with different ones, such as ow. So the boy bumped his head and he says ow. So we've got ow, k, ow, k, ow, k. And then the other way around, k, ow, k, ow, cow. So we've blended those. So we've made it in isolation. We've blended it with a vowel both way round. Next up is word level, so single words. I like to start with k at the end of words because often it's easier. So we have picture cards, and I keep them all in a little folder, and I have words with k at the end, k in the middle, and k at the beginning. So I start with the end first because it's often easier. So, and this will be a matter of kind of flashcards, looking at them, going through them, book, but the child might say but still because we've not practiced it in words. So it's saying book, and really kind of using that visual prompt all the time. And again, showing book, and even if at word level they're finding it hard, lie them back down, tilt their head back to help that book. And again, you'll kind of go through that with at the end, and then you might start on some words at the beginning. So in exactly the same way, cup, cup, up. And I often kind of do games with this. So they do 3 picture words, they get a turn on Pop-Up Pirate or something like that, just to keep their motivation going, because it is very repetitive. We want to drill those sounds. So yeah, we've done words with k at the end, words with k at the beginning, and then you can try some words like turkey, so k in the middle. Often this is the hardest because you've got lots of other sounds within the word and it's in the middle. raincoat. And again, using the visual prompt all the time, lie them back if they need it. So once you have done that, word level, they can kind of do that. You start to develop little phrases. So you might say blue cup or drink, please. So just adding another word, using the picture cards, adding another word to it. And again, using that visual prompt because it is getting harder. Every step up is a step harder. So again, using that visual, showing them where the sound is from and really encouraging them. So once you've done two word phrases, you can go on to kind of shorter phrases and sentences. I can catch the ball. So again, we're going into sentence level, and then the last phase is generalization into everyday speech. And this is often the hardest and the longest. Often we're getting the sounds in therapy sessions, but the parents are just saying, oh, we're just not hearing it. And it is the hardest. And this is the one that requires the most prompting. So kind of day to day, school, nursery, home, everyone in the family, friends. If you're kind of out and about and they say, oh, look at that tat. Oh, look at that. What? A tat. And kind of getting them to realise their own mistakes so they become more aware, and then they self-correct. At first, you can kind of correct them. Oh, it's a cat. Remember with our back sound. Cat. I see the cat. The cat is black. So lots of repetition. And then you can start to say a tat to see if they can hear their own errors, and then they might get their awareness to self-correct, which kind of then speeds them off into generalization. And obviously, if a child's got more than one speech error, some of the other sounds might not make sense, but kind of we focus on the sound that we are making. So that is how we make a k, and exactly the same of how we make a g, and how we work systematically all the way up to help our children say those sounds. Hope it's been useful, and there'll be some more videos with some more tips and tricks coming. Thank you. Bye.